Stop scrolling and listen to today's Arcturian Council message. Starseed, the Arcturians has begun your 24-hour activation window, and what you are about to hear may disturb you before it empowers you, because this is not a comforting fantasy but a direct energetic interruption to the illusion you've been surviving in. If you felt a sudden pressure in your head, a ringing in your ears, or an emotional wave you couldn't explain, that is the first layer of the transmission syncing with your nervous system. The shock here is simple but terrifying to the ego. You were never meant to live small, obedient, exhausted, or disconnected, and the fact that you still are is the real emergency. This activation window does not open often, and when it does, it exposes everything false that has been propping up your identity. Some will feel excitement. Others will feel fear. Both reactions confirm the message is reaching you. This is not entertainment. This is remembrance under pressure, and pressure creates diamonds or destruction depending on resistance. Type I am listening to consciously step into this activation. The Arcturian Council is not whispering right now, they are interrupting timelines, collapsing delays, and forcing dormant starseed codes to surface whether the conscious mind feels ready or not. This is shocking because you were taught that awakening is slow, gentle, and linear, but the truth is that mass awakenings happen through rupture. Old relationships may suddenly feel unbearable, familiar routines may feel nauseating, and thoughts you once avoided are now unavoidable. This is not your life falling apart, it is the false scaffolding dissolving so your original blueprint can breathe again. The Arcturians emphasize that discomfort is not a sign to stop, it is confirmation of alignment. Your body is recalibrating faster than your beliefs can keep up, and that mismatch creates temporary chaos. If you try to cling to who you were, the activation will feel painful. If you surrender, it becomes powerful. Type I surrender to truth to anchor this recalibration. Here is the part that most channels avoid because it is unsettling. Not everyone who hears this message will complete the activation. Some will scroll away, some will mock it, and some will feel called but choose comfort instead. This is not judgment, it is energetic physics. Frequencies either resonate or repel. The Arcturians are clear that this 24-hour window acts like a filter, amplifying inner truth so loudly that denial becomes exhausting. You may notice heightened dreams, sudden memories from childhood or even other lifetimes, and emotional releases that feel disproportionate to current events. This is because your soul is surfacing unresolved data to clear space for upgraded perception. Ignoring this moment doesn't punish you, but engaging with it accelerates timelines dramatically. You are not late, but you are being asked to move. Type I choose to move forward to signal readiness. Another shock arrives here. You were never abandoned, blocked, or forgotten by higher realms. The silence you felt was strategic. The Arcturian Council explains that certain starseeds were intentionally placed behind energetic veils so they could develop discernment, resilience, and inner authority without constant guidance. Now those veils are thinning, and the sudden influx of insight can feel overwhelming, even destabilizing. You might feel anger about lost time or grief for versions of yourself that suffered unnecessarily. Let that emotion move, it is fuel, not failure. The activation window is not about fixing the past but reclaiming power from it. What you integrate now rewrites how you perceive everything that came before. Type I reclaim my power to complete this phase. If at any point during this message you thought, why now, understand that this is the precise moment when delay would cause more damage than disruption. Humanity is at a frequency crossroads, and starseeds who remain dormant unintentionally anchor stagnation. This sounds harsh, but it is meant to be honest. Your awakening is not just personal, it is infrastructural. You stabilize timelines simply by embodying clarity instead of confusion. The Arcturians are direct here. Waiting until you feel ready is an outdated program. Readiness comes after movement, not before. The discomfort you feel is the friction between destiny and hesitation. Type I step into my role to affirm this responsibility. Stop what you are doing for a moment, because what comes next is the part that shocks even awakened minds. Some of the struggles you've been praying to escape were deliberately extended so your frequency would mature enough to hold what is coming. Yes, delayed manifestations, repeated lessons, and emotional cycles were not punishment, they were training. This realization can trigger anger or relief, sometimes both at once. The Arcturian Council states that during this activation window, those patterns finally lose their purpose and collapse quickly. That collapse can look like sudden endings or radical clarity. Do not romanticize the pain, but do not deny its intelligence either. Type I accept the lesson to unlock this release. As the activation deepens, your perception of time may shift. Hours may feel stretched or compressed, and you might feel urgency without panic. This is because your consciousness is syncing with nonlinear awareness, a hallmark of Arcturian frequency. You are being trained to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb. Emotional triggers may surface, not to derail you, but to test sovereignty. Each moment you choose awareness over autopilot, you stabilize the activation further. This is subtle work with massive impact. Type I choose awareness to strengthen this integration. The Council emphasizes that isolation during this phase is not rejection but refinement. You may feel less tolerant of noise, superficial conversations, or draining environments. This is your field protecting itself while it recalibrates. Do not force connection out of guilt. True alignment will re-enter naturally once your frequency stabilizes. Until then, rest is not laziness, it is preparation. The activation window is as much about stillness as action. Type I honor my energy to support this phase. Here is another unsettling truth: once this activation completes, you will not be able to unsee what you now see. Old manipulations, emotional loops, and false narratives will stand out clearly, and pretending otherwise will feel impossible. This can be lonely at first, but it is also liberating. The Arcturians assure you that clarity always precedes connection at a higher level. You lose resonance with illusion to make room for authenticity. Type I choose clarity to seal this awareness. As this first segment of the transmission closes, understand that the next 24 hours are not about doing more but listening deeper. Pay attention to bodily signals, intuitive nudges, and spontaneous insights. This is how the Arcturian frequency communicates, through subtle certainty rather than dramatic commands. You are not becoming someone new, you are shedding interference. The activation has begun, and your participation determines its depth. Type I am activated to anchor what has started. As the activation continues to unfold, the Arcturian Council draws attention to the subtle fear that may arise when certainty replaces confusion. This sounds backward, but confusion is familiar, while clarity demands responsibility. When you suddenly know what no longer aligns, you can no longer hide behind excuses or delays. This is why some starseeds unconsciously resist breakthrough right at the edge of it. You may feel an urge to distract yourself, to numb out, or to question the legitimacy of your own intuition. This is not failure, it is the final reflex of an identity built for survival rather than truth. The Council reminds you that intuition does not scream, it lands calmly and repeatedly until acknowledged. During this window, intuition becomes impossible to ignore, and that is the shock. You are being asked to trust what feels quietly obvious rather than what feels dramatically intense. This recalibration may temporarily destabilize your sense of direction, but it is actually aligning you with a deeper internal compass that cannot be manipulated or overridden. Type I trust my inner knowing to stabilize this shift. You may notice heightened sensitivity not just emotionally, but energetically. Crowded spaces feel heavier, certain voices feel sharp, and even digital content may suddenly feel draining. This is because your field is becoming less porous. The Arcturian Council explains that starseeds were once designed to be highly receptive, but this era requires discernment over absorption. Sensitivity is being refined into selectivity. This can feel shocking if you once prided yourself on being endlessly empathetic or accommodating. Boundaries may arise instinctively rather than intellectually, and you may surprise yourself by saying no without explanation. This is not coldness, it is coherence. Your nervous system is learning safety through alignment rather than tolerance. Let the discomfort of change pass without self-judgment. You are not becoming less loving, you are becoming less available to distortion. Type I choose energetic sovereignty to claim this refinement. The Council now addresses something rarely spoken aloud: grief for the life you might have lived had you awakened earlier. This grief may surface suddenly, without warning, and it can feel heavy, even paralyzing. Understand that this grief is not meant to trap you in regret, it is meant to release stored timelines that no longer need to be carried. Parallel potentials collapse during activations, and the emotional residue of those collapses must move through the body. Cry if needed. Rest if needed. This does not slow the activation, it completes it. The Arcturians emphasize that nothing truly aligned was lost, only illusions of alternate paths dissolve. What remains is the most efficient, embodied version of your soul's intent. Type I release past timelines to allow this integration. As the activation deepens, you may experience a strange calm beneath surface turbulence, like standing in the eye of a storm. This is a sign that your core frequency is stabilizing even as external circumstances shift. The Arcturian Council explains that true stability is not the absence of change, but the ability to remain internally anchored while change occurs. You are learning to observe transformation without being consumed by it. This skill is essential for what comes next in your evolution. Do not mistake calm for stagnation or boredom. Stillness is information rich when you know how to listen. Type I remain anchored to reinforce this inner stability. There is also a recalibration happening in how you relate to authority, both external and internal. Old hierarchies, spiritual gatekeepers, and even trusted voices may suddenly lose their influence over you. This can feel disorienting if you once relied on external validation to navigate your path. The Arcturian Council is clear: this activation marks the end of borrowed certainty. You are not meant to reject guidance, but to evaluate it through resonance rather than reverence. Your body will now respond immediately to truth with expansion and to distortion with contraction. Learn this language. It will not mislead you. Type I honor my inner authority to seal this recalibration. You may also feel compelled to simplify physically, mentally, emotionally. Objects may lose meaning, commitments may feel heavy, and mental clutter may become intolerable. This is not detachment for its own sake, it is bandwidth optimization. The Arcturian frequency operates efficiently, and excess noise interferes with signal clarity. Let go without dramatizing the release. What leaves now does so because it cannot travel where you are going. Trust that subtraction is not loss, but preparation. Type I allow simplification to support this process. Dream states during this window may intensify, becoming vivid, symbolic, or strangely instructional. Pay attention not to the narrative, but to the feeling tone. The Arcturian Council communicates frequently through altered states where the analytical mind is quiet. You may wake with insights that feel complete but difficult to articulate. Write them down anyway. Meaning will unfold later. These dream transmissions are not random, they are calibrations occurring beyond linear logic. Type I receive beyond logic to remain receptive. Another shock arrives quietly, motivation may temporarily drop. This is not apathy, it is recalibration of desire. Old goals fueled by fear, approval, or urgency lose their charge. New impulses may not have names yet. Sit with the silence rather than forcing direction. The Arcturian Council reminds you that authentic movement emerges from clarity, not pressure. This pause is strategic. Type I trust the pause to avoid unnecessary resistance. As your field stabilizes, you may notice synchronicities increasing, repeating numbers, chance encounters, phrases echoing across different sources. These are not signs to chase, but confirmations to notice. The universe is responding more quickly because internal conflict is decreasing. Alignment shortens feedback loops. Let confirmation reassure you, but do not outsource your confidence to it. Type I notice alignment to acknowledge this feedback. This segment of the activation concludes with an important reminder: integration happens through embodiment, not analysis. Drink water. Move your body gently. Breathe intentionally. These simple actions ground high-frequency data into the physical form, where it becomes usable rather than overwhelming. You are not meant to escape the human experience, but to inhabit it with greater coherence. The activation continues, and your body is the vessel that carries it forward. Type I embody this activation to anchor what has been received. As the activation reaches this phase, the Arcturian Council draws your attention to a subtle but unsettling shift. The narratives you once told yourself to survive are no longer convincing. Stories about why you can't, why it's not the right time, or why others are somehow more capable than you may suddenly feel hollow. This can trigger a strange emptiness, because identity built on limitation dissolves before a new one fully forms. Do not rush to refill that space. This void is fertile, intelligent, and temporary. It is where authentic intention begins to emerge without distortion. Many starseeds fear this phase because it feels like losing direction, but in truth, you are losing false direction. The Council emphasizes that clarity does not always arrive as a plan, sometimes it arrives as the absence of lies. Sit with that. Let uncertainty sharpen awareness rather than dull it. Type I release false narratives to consciously allow this clearing. You may also notice a heightened awareness of collective energy. News, global emotions, and unspoken tensions may register more strongly in your body. This is not meant to overwhelm you, but to teach energetic discernment at scale. The Arcturian Council reminds you that feeling the collective does not mean carrying it. You are learning to witness without absorbing, to care without collapsing. This is a crucial skill for starseeds operating during periods of planetary transition. If emotions arise that do not feel personal, pause before assigning them a story. Ask instead, is this mine to hold often? The answer will be no. Releasing what is not yours strengthens the activation rather than weakening compassion. Type I release what is not mine to maintain energetic clarity. Another unexpected development during this window is the resurfacing of creative impulses that were once suppressed or abandoned. These may not appear as grand visions but as quiet urges to write, to speak, to build, to heal, to explore. The shock here is that these impulses may feel non-negotiable, even inconvenient. The Arcturian Council explains that creativity is not a luxury, it is a transmission method. Your unique expression carries frequency in ways logic cannot replicate. Ignoring these impulses can create internal friction, while honoring them even imperfectly creates immediate coherence. Do not wait for confidence or permission. Movement generates clarity, not the other way around. Type I honor my creative signal to activate this channel. Relationships may now enter a phase of honest redefinition. Some bonds will deepen through authenticity, while others may naturally loosen without drama. This can feel unsettling if you equate longevity with success, but the council clarifies that resonance is seasonal. You are not meant to carry connections past their energetic expiration. During this activation, truth becomes more valuable than harmony, and alignment more important than agreement. Speak less, but more honestly. Listen more, but with discernment. Silence may become a teacher here. Type I choose authentic connection to support relational realignment. As this portion of the transmission completes, the Arcturian Council asks you to recognize something powerful. You are no longer preparing for activation, you are inside it. The days ahead may feel unusually vivid, emotionally transparent, and symbolically rich. Treat ordinary moments with reverence. Insight often arrives disguised as simplicity. There is nothing you need to chase, fix, or prove. Presence is the work now. Trust that what is aligning does so intelligently, even if the full picture is not yet visible. This activation is not a peak experience, it is a recalibration of how you move through reality. Type I am present to anchor the stage of the journey. At this stage of the activation, the Arcturian Council highlights a phenomenon that can feel deeply unsettling: the collapse of urgency. For much of your life, urgency was the fuel: hurry, pressure, deadlines, fear of falling behind. Now that fuel is evaporating. This can feel like losing momentum, but it is actually the removal of distortion. Actions driven by panic rarely align with soul intelligence. As urgency dissolves, presence takes its place, and from presence comes precision. You may act less, but when you do act, the impact will be stronger and cleaner. This shift can confuse those around you who are still operating on stress-based motivation. Do not explain yourself. Let your steadiness speak. The Council emphasizes that calm is not complacency, it is mastery. Type I move with precision to anchor this new mode of action. You may begin to notice that your emotional reactions are changing, not disappearing, but slowing. There is a pause now between stimulus and response, and within that pause lies freedom. The Arcturian Council explains that this pause is one of the most tangible signs of integration. Where you once reacted automatically, you now have choice. This can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because emotional intensity once felt like proof of caring. But discernment is a higher expression of love than reactivity. Let yourself feel without letting emotion hijack direction. This is emotional intelligence at a multidimensional level. Type I choose conscious response to strengthen this capacity. Another layer of the activation involves your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of feeling threatened by the unknown, you may find yourself oddly curious about it. This is a profound shift. The Arcturian Council notes that curiosity is the bridge between fear and wisdom. When curiosity replaces anxiety, learning accelerates naturally. You are no longer bracing against the future, you are engaging with it. This does not mean recklessness, it means openness without naivete. Let questions arise without demanding immediate answers. Some truths reveal themselves only when pursued gently. Type I welcome the unknown to support this transition. Physical sensations may also shift during this window. Changes in sleep patterns, appetite, or energy levels are common. The body is not malfunctioning, it is recalibrating to carry a clearer signal. The Arcturian Council advises simplicity here: hydration, rest, gentle movement, and reduced stimulation. Overefforting will only create resistance. Treat the body as a collaborator, not a machine. When you listen, it will guide you precisely. Type I listen to my body to align physical integration. As this segment closes, recognize that your perception of value is transforming. What once seemed impressive may now feel empty, while what once felt insignificant may now feel sacred. This is not loss of ambition, it is refinement of purpose. The Arcturian Council affirms that true fulfillment arises when effort aligns with essence. Let this revaluation happen without nostalgia or regret. You are not abandoning meaning, you are redefining it. The activation continues to unfold through awareness, choice, and embodiment. Type I align with what matters to seal this phase. As the activation deepens further, the Arcturian Council brings forward a truth that can feel confronting even to seasoned starseeds: you are no longer here to blend in. For a long time, many of you learned how to soften your presence, dilute your truth, or fragment your expression in order to remain accepted, safe, or unseen. That phase is ending now. The shock is not that you are meant to be visible, but that invisibility has been costing you more energy than visibility ever could. You may feel an internal pressure to speak more clearly, act more honestly, or withdraw from environments where self-silencing is required. This pressure is not egoic, it is corrective. Your frequency cannot fully stabilize while you are compressing it to fit outdated containers. Expect moments where your authenticity feels disruptive, not because it is wrong, but because it introduces coherence into incoherent systems. Let discomfort be feedback, not a command to retreat. Type I allow myself to be seen to consciously step into this recalibration. At this point in the activation, memory begins to reorganize. You may suddenly reinterpret past experiences with startling clarity, seeing patterns that were invisible before. Moments that once felt like random hardship may now reveal themselves as precise training. This can be emotionally intense, because clarity often arrives without apology. The Arcturian Council emphasizes that this reorganization is not meant to trap you in the past, but to free you from repeating it. When memory shifts, identity shifts with it. You are no longer the character inside the story, you are becoming the observer who understands the narrative architecture. This perspective grants compassion without self-betrayal. You may feel grief for the version of yourself who endured without understanding, but that grief carries wisdom forward rather than backward. Type I integrate my past with clarity to support this cognitive realignment. Another profound development emerges now: your relationship with effort changes at a fundamental level. The Arcturian Council explains that effort rooted in resistance drains, while effort rooted in alignment energizes. You may begin to notice that certain actions feel almost frictionless, while others feel impossibly heavy despite logic insisting they are necessary. This is not laziness or avoidance, it is energetic intelligence asserting itself. Continuing to force what drains you will feel increasingly intolerable. This phase asks for radical honesty about where your life force is being spent. Simplification becomes unavoidable, not as an aesthetic choice, but as a survival mechanism for coherence. Let go of moral narratives around productivity. Alignment produces more impact with less strain. Type I choose aligned effort to reinforce this shift. Social dynamics may continue to evolve in unexpected ways. You may find yourself less reactive to provocation, less interested in persuasion, and more comfortable with silence. This can unsettle others who are accustomed to emotional engagement as a form of validation. The Arcturian Council notes that neutrality is often mistaken for detachment, but it is actually a sign of internal balance. You are learning when engagement is meaningful and when it is performative. This discernment conserves energy and sharpens presence. Not every invitation requires a response. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Trust the intelligence of restraint. Type I conserve my energy wisely to support this refinement. As this section of the transmission concludes, the Council asks you to recognize the magnitude of what has already shifted. Activation is not a single event, it is a cascade, and you are mid-cascade now. Subtle changes compound quickly when resistance drops. You may not yet see external proof, but internal coherence always precedes visible transformation. Stay with the process without dramatizing it. You are not becoming extraordinary, you are becoming accurate. Accuracy is power in motion. The more you align with what is real for you, the less effort is required to sustain momentum. This activation continues to unfold through presence, honesty, and choice. Type I stay aligned to anchor the stage of the activation. As the activation progresses into this deeper layer, the Arcturian Council addresses a realization that can feel both liberating and unsettling: you are no longer driven by the need to be understood. For much of your journey, being seen correctly felt essential for safety, connection, and validation. Now, something quieter but stronger is emerging: self-recognition. When you truly recognize yourself, misunderstanding loses its sting. This shift can feel lonely at first, not because you are disconnected, but because you are no longer outsourcing certainty. You may notice a reduced impulse to explain your choices, defend your path, or convince others of your truth. This is not indifference, it is integrity. Your energy is no longer leaking through justification. The Council reminds you that resonance does not require explanation, it requires alignment. Those meant to meet you at this frequency will recognize you without translation. Type I stand in self-recognition to anchor this independence. During this phase, the concept of waiting for the right moment begins to dissolve. The Arcturian Council explains that timing is not something you find, it is something you create through coherence. When your internal state aligns, action becomes naturally timely. You may feel an urge to initiate small but meaningful changes without dramatic build-up. These impulses are not impulsive, they are precise. Trust the simplicity of what arises. Grand transformations often begin with subtle shifts executed consistently. The shock here is realizing how much energy was spent anticipating permission that was never required. Momentum now comes from clarity, not anticipation. Type I act from coherence to reinforce this forward movement. Another recalibration occurs in how you experience purpose. Instead of feeling like a distant goal or a singular mission, purpose begins to feel immediate and embodied. The Arcturian Council clarifies that purpose is not a destination, it is a quality of presence. How you listen, how you speak, how you choose matters more than what you label yourself as doing. This realization can dismantle pressure around figuring it all out. You are already living purpose when your actions are congruent with your values. Let purpose be lived, not hunted. Type I embody my purpose to ground this awareness. You may now encounter moments of profound stillness, where nothing feels urgent, broken, or lacking. These moments can feel unfamiliar, even suspicious, to a nervous system conditioned to chaos. The Arcturian Council urges you not to fill this stillness with noise. Stillness is not emptiness, it is integration. In these moments, your system recalibrates at levels beyond thought. Trust the quiet. It is doing more than effort ever could. Type I trust stillness to allow this integration. As this segment closes, recognize that you are no longer moving toward awakening, you are moving from it. Decisions, perceptions, and responses now arise from a different baseline. This does not make life perfect, but it makes it honest. The Arcturian Council affirms that honesty is the foundation of sustainable evolution. Let what is false fall away without ceremony. Let what is true guide without force. The activation continues, not as an event, but as a way of being. Type I move from truth to seal this phase of the transmission. As the activation continues, the Arcturian Council brings your awareness to a profound internal shift that may be difficult to articulate. Your relationship with identity itself is loosening. Labels that once felt defining roles, titles, archetypes, even spiritual identifiers may begin to feel optional rather than essential. This can be deeply disorienting, especially in a world that relies on categorization to create certainty. Yet the Council emphasizes that this loosening is not erasure, it is expansion. You are no longer confined to a single narrative about who you are or why you are here. Instead, you are accessing a fluid sense of self that adapts without fragmenting. This flexibility is not instability, it is intelligence. When identity becomes spacious, growth no longer feels like betrayal of the past. You are allowed to evolve without apology. Let old definitions dissolve gently, without forcing new ones to replace them. What remains is presence, and presence is enough. Type I allow my identity to evolve to consciously support this liberation. You may now notice that your tolerance for internal contradiction is increasing. Where you once felt compelled to resolve every paradox, you may find yourself able to hold opposing truths without anxiety. The Arcturian Council explains that this capacity marks a transition into higher order awareness. Reality is not linear, and neither is wisdom. You can be confident and uncertain, grounded and curious, decisive and open all at once. This multidimensional capacity reduces inner conflict dramatically. Instead of battling yourself, you begin to collaborate with complexity. This does not mean indecision, it means discernment informed by nuance. Allow questions to coexist with answers. Allow growth to be nonlinear. You are not meant to be simple, you are meant to be whole. Type I embrace complexity with ease to anchor this expansion. Another subtle but powerful change emerges now in how you experience trust. This trust is not naive optimism, nor blind faith in outcomes, it is trust in your capacity to respond. The Arcturian Council notes that many starseeds were conditioned to seek safety through prediction, control, or constant vigilance. As activation stabilizes, that vigilance relaxes. You no longer need certainty about the future to feel secure in the present. This trust is embodied, not intellectual. It lives in your breath, your posture, your willingness to meet what arises without collapse. When challenges appear, you no longer interpret them as proof of misalignment, but as information. This shift conserves enormous energy and restores resilience. Type I trust my capacity to respond to deepen this embodied confidence. You may also find that your sense of compassion is transforming. Instead of being fueled by urgency or obligation, compassion becomes spacious and grounded. The Arcturian Council clarifies that true compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You can care deeply without losing yourself. You can witness pain without absorbing it. This recalibration may initially feel like emotional distance, but it is actually emotional maturity. When compassion is no longer entangled with guilt or rescue patterns, it becomes sustainable. You are learning to offer presence rather than solutions, understanding rather than control. This form of compassion heals without depletion. Type I offer grounded compassion to support this integration. As this portion of the transmission concludes, the Arcturian Council invites you to acknowledge how radically your internal landscape has shifted, even if external circumstances have not yet caught up. This is the nature of true transformation. It begins invisibly, reorganizing perception before rearranging reality. Do not underestimate these subtle changes. They are structural. The way you think, feel, choose, and respond is now rooted in greater coherence. From this coherence, new possibilities will emerge naturally, without force. Stay attentive, stay honest, and stay present. The activation is not nearing an end, it is settling into you. Type I honor this transformation to anchor and affirm what has unfolded. As the activation reaches its next phase, the Arcturian Council emphasizes that discernment is becoming your most potent tool. You may notice an increasing ability to sense what aligns with your highest frequency and what does not through logic or analysis, but through subtle resonance in your body and field. This discernment can feel shocking because it bypasses traditional decision-making processes. You may begin noticing instant yes or no signals from situations, people, or opportunities, often without explanation. The Council clarifies that ignoring these signals is increasingly difficult, they are designed to be unmistakable. Some starseeds feel compelled to over-explain or justify choices in this period, but doing so only creates friction. Instead, learn to act on intuitive resonance, trusting that your body and consciousness know the path. The activation encourages you to refine your perception, allowing clarity to guide action instead of waiting for external validation or permission. Resistance will feel uncomfortable, and yet surrendering to this guidance will feel strangely effortless. This does not remove responsibility, it enhances it. You are now fully accountable for the alignment of your energy, your choices, and your presence. Type I act from resonance to claim this heightened discernment. At this stage, your connection with time and timing may shift in profound ways. The Arcturian Council explains that linear perception of time is beginning to dissolve, replaced by a sense of synchronicity and flow. Events may unfold in unexpected sequences, and deadlines or schedules may feel arbitrary. This can feel unsettling if your identity has been rooted in predictability or control. However, the shock of nonlinear timing is purposeful, it forces reliance on intuition over logic, on trust over rigidity. You may notice moments where everything clicks simultaneously, or where outcomes manifest far faster than anticipated. Conversely, some situations may appear delayed, but this is also an energetic alignment process, not failure. Your nervous system and consciousness are being trained to perceive reality as interwoven layers rather than sequential steps. The Arcturian Council advises embracing these shifts, observing patterns without judgment, and moving with what resonates in each moment. Type I move with synchronicity to anchor this expanded sense of timing. Another key transformation now is your relationship with energy itself. The Arcturian Council highlights that starseeds often expend energy unconsciously on drama, distraction, or people-pleasing. During this activation, awareness of energy expenditure becomes acute. You may suddenly notice which interactions drain you, which commitments are misaligned, and where your personal field has been compromised. The shock is realizing how much energy has been misallocated in service of old patterns, identities, or unconscious loyalty. This moment of clarity is a pivotal opportunity. When you reclaim energy, your frequency rises, and the activation accelerates. Boundaries, pauses, and selective engagement are no longer optional, they are essential. Energy becomes a tool, not a commodity to be spent on obligation. The Council stresses that respecting your energetic sovereignty strengthens not only your field but the collective frequency you are anchored to. Type I reclaim my energy to fully embody this energetic sovereignty. You may also observe that your capacity for multidimensional perception is expanding. The Arcturian Council explains that your awareness is now tuning to information beyond the immediate physical environment, subtle cues, emotional undercurrents, and energetic signals from distant people, places, or events. This expansion can feel overwhelming if your mind tries to rationalize every input. The shock is that traditional logic is insufficient here. You are being trained to sense truth before you can articulate it, to respond to frequency rather than words. This ability is not mystical embellishment, it is a natural evolution of the starseed consciousness once resistance is lowered and the field is clear. You may experience insights about relationships, projects, or personal pathways before external evidence presents itself. Trusting these impressions without overthinking is critical for the next phase of the activation. Type I trust multidimensional perception to anchor this expanded awareness. As the final portion of this 24-hour activation window unfolds, the Arcturian Council emphasizes integration over performance. The intensity, revelations, and recalibrations you have experienced are not meant to be completed as a task, they are meant to be embodied as your new operating system. Your nervous system, your consciousness, and your presence are now calibrated to operate with greater alignment, clarity, and resonance. You may feel residual discomfort, surprise, or even awe at the changes, but these are natural signals of transformation solidifying. The Council urges you to ground continuously through breath, movement, water, and attention to your body. Reflection is essential, but overanalysis is counterproductive. You are not becoming someone different, you are remembering who you have always been. Presence, coherence, and resonance are your tools. This is not a conclusion, it is a living foundation upon which the rest of your journey will build. Type I am fully integrated to seal and claim the completion of this activation window.